In full uniform, he was forced to kneel on the stone steps while laughter spread through the crowd. Except here, it wasn't a soldier, it was a janitor. Midday sun slanted across Jefferson High's courtyard, casting sharp lines on the concrete as students gathered after lunch. A boy in a white hoodie shoved his backpack onto the ground, then pressed it against the man's knees, smirking as if he'd just invented comedy. Phones lit up instantly, little red dots recording from every angle. Mr. Carter's navy shirt clung damp to his shoulders, his medium brown skin catching the glare of the heat. He braced on his broom to rise, but the mocking voice came again. "Look at him, kneeling already. That's the only salute you'll ever give." The words rippled outward, drawing gasps from a few parents waiting by the gate. Some turned away, not daring to intervene. The courtyard thickened with a mix of laughter, unease, and the kind of silence that begged for someone, anyone, to act. But instead, all eyes stayed fixed on the janitor who refused to bow his head. The heat of the afternoon pressed down as the courtyard buzzed with whispers. Mr. Carter rose slowly, his broom still in hand, shoulders squared though the boy's shove had left dust streaks on his pants. He was 60, maybe older, the kind of man students rarely noticed until he was in their way. Today, everyone noticed. A circle was forming, phones raised high. The insult had already grown legs, spreading through the crowd with the speed of Wi-Fi. "You hear that?" one student muttered, elbowing his friend. "He thinks he belongs here." The boy in the white hoodie stepped forward, voice rising like a ringleader. "You're nothing but a janitor. My dad signs checks bigger than your whole life." His words hit like pebbles, sharp and casual. Behind him, 3 friends laughed, one nearly choking on a soda. Mr. Carter's grip tightened on the broom handle. For a second, his knees wanted to fold. Memories pressed in. Long nights cleaning bus stations where no one thanked him, echoes of orders barked at him decades ago in a different uniform. He blinked, grounding himself in the present. His eyes swept across the students, some gleeful, some unsure, some averting their gaze. A girl near the front winced and looked away, guilt twisting her mouth. The boy leaned closer, voice dripping with challenge. "Bet you couldn't last a single day in a real job that matters." A smattering of chuckles followed. Mr. Carter inhaled deeply, the smell of cafeteria fries lingering in the air. He didn't respond. He simply adjusted his posture, standing taller, the courtyard seeming smaller around him. What none of the students knew was that this was not the first time he had been tested like this. And what came next would make the entire school forget how to laugh. The laughter hit its peak just as the bell tower struck 3, a hollow clang that rolled over the courtyard like a warning. Mr. Carter didn't move at first. Then, with a measured breath, he set the broom aside against the flagpole and stepped forward. The sound of his boots against the concrete cut through the noise, steady, deliberate, unnerving. The boy in the white hoodie faltered, his smirk thinning. "What? You gonna sweep me away?" His friends snickered, but their eyes darted nervously between Carter's face and the growing crowd. Mr. Carter's gaze locked on him, voice low but carrying weight. "Behind me flies a flag students before you bled to defend. I carried it once." Gasps rippled outward. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, weathered ribbon, the kind only veterans wore on Memorial Day. For a moment, the boy's bravado cracked. "You?" he scoffed, voice cracking. "A janitor? Don't make me laugh." But the ribbon spoke louder than any denial. A history teacher near the back whispered something that made half the students straighten. "That's a campaign medal." Phones that had been recording mockery now zoomed in on the thin strip of fabric pinched between his fingers. Mr. Carter took another step, standing just inches away. He didn't raise his hand, didn't shout. He only said, "Show them what kind of man you are. Or step back." His words landed like a challenge the boy wasn't ready for. The silence that followed was suffocating, friends shifting on their feet, soda cans forgotten, parents watching with eyes wide. The boy's throat bobbed. His tongue, ready to sneer, stuck instead. The flagpole clanged softly in the breeze, a reminder of everything bigger than the moment. By then, the entire courtyard understood this wasn't about a broom. It was about a man who had already survived worse battles than this one. The boys' friends edged back first, laughter dying on their lips as if the courtyard itself had turned against them. A gust of wind carried loose papers across the concrete, scattering under benches, the sound of them scraping like whispers no one dared finish. Mr. Carter remained standing tall, the ribbon between his fingers catching the sunlight. The crowd's energy shifted, students who moments ago were amused now shifted uneasily, shame pooling in their faces. A teacher finally stepped closer, her heels clicking against the stone. "Enough," she said, her tone sharp. But the damage had already been done. Every phone still pointed at the scene had captured the moment the ribbon was revealed. One boy muttered, "It's live on Instagram." The white hoodie student flushed crimson, his earlier arrogance unraveling. "I didn't know," he stammered, his voice suddenly small. Mr. Carter didn't answer. He simply lifted his broom again, sliding it back into his palm with the same control as a rifle drill. The symbolism was impossible to miss, what he held wasn't weakness, but discipline. The silence pressed heavier than any shout. Students lowered their cameras, some biting their lips, others whispering apologies to no one in particular. Even parents at the gate dabbed at their eyes, watching a scene that felt more like a lesson than a scuffle. The boy who had mocked him finally dropped his gaze, shoulders curling inward as he stepped back behind the line of benches. What came next wasn't loud or violent. It was worse for the boy, the entire courtyard refusing to laugh with him anymore. The final bell rang at 3:30, but no one rushed to leave. Instead, students lingered in small clusters, whispering, their eyes drifting back to the man in the navy shirt. Mr. Carter resumed sweeping as though nothing had happened, each stroke steady, measured, carrying more authority than the loudest lecture. The white hoodie boy stood at the edge, hands buried deep in his pockets, his jaw tight. For the first time that day, he looked less like a leader and more like a child who'd lost his way. A veteran parent stepped forward, voice low but firm. "Show respect, son. Men like him built the ground you're standing on." The boy's lips parted, but words failed. Instead, he gave the smallest nod, then turned away. His friends didn't tease, didn't laugh, they followed silently, eyes on the pavement. The courtyard settled, the tension dissolving into a hushed kind of reverence. A girl who had recorded everything slipped her phone into her bag, cheeks flushed with something close to shame. Another student whispered, "He used to be a soldier." The rumor spread like wildfire, only this time no one laughed. Mr. Carter paused, tapping the broom against the flagstone. He looked up at the flag above, its fabric snapping softly in the wind. For him, it was never about proving anything to children. It was about remembering. The crowd sensed it too. They would walk away carrying not a story of humiliation, but of a man who turned mockery into a quiet kind of power. And long after they left, the image stayed, a broom, a ribbon, and a man who never needed to raise his voice to be heard. In a world quick to dismiss those who work in silence, his story reminds us that dignity is not tied to uniforms or titles but to the choices we make under pressure. A broom in his hand carried the same weight as the medals on his chest, teaching an entire school what respect truly means. If this touched you, share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories that reveal hidden strength.